have you watched any of my episodes? Do you know what this is about?
No.
Okay. Thanks for not watching. But what it's
I am
about,
subscribed though. I am subscribed.
okay, that's step one. Step two is to watch the videos. But what
Hold
this
on,
is
product
about
placement.
is this about it's about video games and how it impacts your life because we know now that it's just not just a little fun passing activity anymore. It does inform a little bit of your life at least. So looking back at your life, do you regret spending a lot of time playing games? If you did, and if yes, what would you rather do with the time that you got back? And if no, why do you not regret it? And why do you say, you know what, I'm glad I played those games? And yeah, what's your take on that?
I think for me, it's definitely a mixture of regrets, but also some very happy moments. Definitely growing up with my brothers and I, since I'm the youngest, we
Hmm.
all like played games from a very early age. Uh, I think the first device we ever used was maybe the like PSP or like the Nintendo
Oh,
64.
that's
And so
OG,
like
yeah.
yeah, so gaming was like a very integral part of our lives. So anytime like after school, for example, we're just like hop on Nintendo 64, play some
Hmm.
Mario with the three of us.
You
And
guys
so
an
it's some like very
N64? That's crazy.
yeah. So it's like some very like quality bonding type of thing. But however, like as you go down like academia, you grow older, right? I think that shift of like gaming kind of like had the most centered hobby compared to other things, like which our parents tried making us like play pianos, but it's really like playing games that was the like something I would rather do than playing like doing these
Hmm.
other things like reading or stuff like that. So
Yeah,
like
true.
definitely my definitely my biggest regret was just spending so much time in gaming. But I think the double edged sword of that is like I think the most meaningful moments out of us three brothers came from gaming because I remember like when it came to the weekends, we would wake up at like 6 a.m. to play TF2, for example. I'd be playing the Spy, but it was like it was very nice having that quality moment of playing with each other via games. But I think as we grew older as well, like that time to play games or that time to have like hobbies or anything kind of subsides, and you don't really have and you have to do like your new focus of like, oh, doing life, progressing through academia, finding new hobbies and stuff like that. But I there was gaming's always, I think, will always carry forward and always has been a pretty good centered part of my life. I mean, nowadays, whenever us three brothers have like the time to uh, have a reunion, for example, like Christmas break, we
Yeah.
would do these story based games like what's a good one? Until Dawn, Life is Strange. And so I
That's
think
good.
our games definitely transition from more like competitive games, TF2, CS:GO, Rainbow Six Siege, to more like these story-based games type things like Life is Strange, uh, what God of War, those type of games.
And okay, so two things. So one, did you prefer story games because it makes you guys have more fun, or it's because this is something that you've enjoyed more as you matured? Like, was it a
I
conscious
think
decision?
I think definitely like initially, what I've always grown up with competitive games. My brothers played up more of the what played a little bit more of the story games, single player games. But I think that kind of trickled down to me to enjoy a little bit more of those story games as
Hmm.
well, understanding the nuance and stuff like that. I think my favorite game, and even the I guess the first story game I ever played was Life is Strange. I think
That's a good one.
Life is Strange, the first Life is Strange. I think it was just like very amazing. The music is so good. It was just like very well orchestrated,
Hmm.
and like being able to paint your own story based off like the choices and the information you have. I think that's like the most beautiful thing gaming can provide as well. I think because that's very similar to reading, right? Uh,
Yeah,
I forgot who
sure,
said this,
yeah.
but reading helps us being able to empathize and sympathize with people and put ourselves in shoes that we could like never had thought about before or anything like that. Like
Yeah.
for example, in George Orwell, 1984. Like you, after reading that book, you're now you can kind of like empathize and sympathize. Like, oh, that's what a dystopian is like, having being watched 24/7 type of thing. And
Yeah.
so I think that that has that similarity with choice story games for
And
sure.
do you think those choice story and story mode games, do you think they're better than the kind of like slop that people claim is coming out nowadays? Like, would you are you saying that that's a much better type of game in general?
I think it kind of depends. It, also, like, it's what do you want to get out of gaming initially? I love competitive gaming. CS:GO, like
Hmm.
that was my go-to game. CS2, that was my go-to game. Like competitive gaming, like I would do that 24/7. But I
Yeah.
think like slowly, like as I distanced myself a little bit more from gaming, focusing a little bit more on life, I kind of lost those skills, like being able to react fast, being able to compete at a high level in CS:GO. And so I think there's like such a higher barrier in terms of like competitive gaming. And I think in terms of that as well, like I think Call of Duty is a pretty good example where like in the back then it wasn't really much competitive gaming. It was just like, oh, let me just hop on, let me just
Hmm.
play with my friends and stuff like that, just enjoy a good time. But like I think slowly down the line, we've kind of turned more to this like competitive gaming rather than this like turn relaxing type of gaming. But there's nothing wrong, like I'm saying, like there's nothing wrong with competitive gaming.
Hmm.
Like I think competitive gaming, like you can have like an amazing career. Being like even being able to have a career in this competitive gaming is just like such high tier, and like
Yeah,
being
I
able
agree.
to
I agree.
have that skill. Like I remember my favorite I used to watch esports for CS:GO, and my favorite favorite gamer was Stewie 2K. Like
Oh,
Stewie
I
2K
love
was
Stu
just like
2K.
amazing type. And then Shroud, like Cloud9 was the probably the most like high speed thing
Yeah,
I've
yeah, mine
like
was
wanted to achieve
simple.
for
I
it.
copied simples like crosshairs and video settings and everything.
But yeah, but like slowly, like coming from now, I don't really have the time for gaming. And if even if I do have time for gaming, it's probably more of just like hopefully just playing what Jedi Last Survivor. And I've been
Hmm.
playing this game for probably like 9 months. Not because of just like it's taking me this long. It's just
Yeah.
like I don't have as much time as I did when I was a kid.
Yeah. And so, okay. When you say like competitive games that you sort of feel like you're not as good at them anymore, right? But should that affect how you enjoy the game? Like, do you think if you suck at a game that you should not enjoy it? That you probably won't or you shouldn't?
I think nobody likes to just like if you're playing into a competitive CS:GO game, I think nobody likes to just have a losing spree 24/7 type of thing. But
Sure,
that's kind of
yeah.
like different if you're doing with like if you're playing with your friends or something like that. You're more just having a good time. Definitely do think there's a spectrum of turn relaxing and competitive gaming. But however, it kind of overlaps where competitive gaming can be the same as relaxing and being chill as
Hmm.
well. So, like for example, those people who do competitive gaming, right, used to be initially just something relaxed and chill, coming all the way straight to competitive because they have to be profitable and get like these sponsors. And so it's because of that very competitiveness that they live on, trying to what have that feeling,
Yeah.
trying to win more, trying to like play with that team, something like somebody who like really understands you type of thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, the other thing I wanted to go back to is when you say there's a mix of regret with having played a lot of video games, like when did you really feel like you regretted playing games at one point? When was it kind of starting to feel like a waste of time as opposed to actually relaxing and having fun? Like what were those moments like?
I definitely do think it hit me during high school. I think it was just like the friend group I was with. Um,
Hmm.
they didn't really play games, so there wasn't really a need for me to, I guess, continue playing gaming. And then as well as just like I think I was gaming. Maybe I think I was playing CS:GO or Rainbow Six Siege,
Yeah.
and it was just like these solo queuing, right? as fun as it is, right? I think it would be like a way better experience trying to like find friends you can game with in queue. But
Yeah.
I just didn't find that like gamer friend group when I went to high school, and it kind of there's like much better things in my opinion. It was like that I found more joyful in my life rather than just like solo queuing,
Like,
like
what?
just
Give me
being
an
alone.
example of what things you think would be better spent for your time than gaming. And there's no right answer, of course. It's just what would
Yeah,
you
yeah.
think?
I think, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what you have or what makes you think of something being a meaningful experience. I think it's very easy to solo queue in a CSGO game, but it's kind of like I would have probably a more meaningful experience traveling with friends, hanging out with friends, those type of
Hmm.
things, trying to make those, I guess, long lasting connections that kind of pay forward down the line. I remember one time in our high school, we would do this challenge to drive to DC in a matter of 2 hours before the
Okay.
next class started. And so that was like a really, really fun like thing to do. We would cram like 7 people inside a Honda Civic. And it was just like, as illegal as it kind of sounds, but it was just like a very fun experience to
Yeah.
uh, do that. Because I mean, how often do you have the ability or like the time to do those experiences as well? And what was it? I was talking to like this pilot at flies like helicopters, and I was like saying like, oh, do you have like any regrets in your life or something like that? And one of it was just like not being able to spend more time with my family, friends, those type of things. So I
Hmm.
guess for me, it's just trying to make those meaningful connections, trying to have those long lasting friendship.
Yeah. And do you think even playing games with friends as opposed to playing with yourself would be one of those meaningful connections you could have made?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think if I found a friend group or some sort of
Hmm.
gamers, I think I could have made like meaningful experience. I think gaming in and of itself can make meaningful experiences as well. I remember probably like in high school, I was like playing Destiny. Sorry, not high school. Middle school, I think, playing Destiny 2 or something like that. And you have like a squad for of like 8 people or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, trying to like do this trying to do this mission in like these Easter eggs. And so I would say like during my middle school time, that was like the best time of my life back then. Just having your 8 friends coming back from school, having the scheduled gaming session, not
Yeah,
needing to
yeah.
worry about anything. And it's just like back then was just so much easier, like so much free time, so much things to do.
That's true. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of people claim that gaming is not fun anymore because it's just you're not the same person you were like 8 years ago. You're not in the same state. So yeah, it is a struggle, but I get it. Um, okay, so transitioning. One of the things I've talked about before is like spending money in games, and I'm guessing you've had experience with that. And maybe not on games, but I mean in game as in like loot boxes and skins. So, do you think it's a waste of money to spend money on those in-game items, or do you think that there is some justifiability?
I think there's some definitely some justifiability, but there's also a questioning of like what you're spending on in games, right? If
Okay.
it's, I think, for example, CS:GO, right? You can spend these money on these cosmetics and type of thing, so they don't
Yeah.
improve your like skill or anything. It's just like, oh, it's just this cool thing that you have and stuff like that. However, you can also make a profit off of what selling these skins and stuff like that. I remember back then during high school, I would like buy these loot boxes, buy these knives type of thing, and just sell it off so I could buy other games like Battlefield 4 or something
Yeah.
of that case. So I think there's definitely a justifiability in terms of spending more money on games, as well as just like I think Resident Evil having like these DLCs type of things. I think they're free, but like
Yeah.
I guess that's a bad example. But
I mean,
like
DLC
the
I'd
purpose,
consider part of the game that's like you're actually
yeah,
getting something from that.
yeah. I think there's should be a line in terms of what you're spending on. I think I remember watching this video that like these loot boxes, right? Whether it's Fortnite, whether it's CS:GO,
Yeah.
like you're straight up gambling when you're just like a little kid, and I was like
True,
straight up
true.
gambling, right? And so that's like kind of illegal. So there should be a line with that as well, but there should also be a line where spending money shouldn't be able to like give you an advantage or a hedge over like somebody.
So like
I
Clash
remember watching
Royale.
these. Yeah, I think like Clash Royale is a good example. However, like the question's like, how is the company gonna get money or how are they gonna profit? Because right, everything there has to be like a money incentive reason for
Yeah.
them to profit. I think through CS:GO is through these loot boxes and having these skins, right? But the double-edged sword of that is just like you having these little kids gamble, and like despite like I think you have to be like I don't know what the minimum age for CS:GO is. Maybe it's 16 plus or something like that.
Not like it
But
really
I definitely,
matters.
yeah, exactly, right? Because people can just like bypass that, right?
Yeah.
Since CS:GO is free as well. But like I'm pretty sure the age for gambling is like what 21 or something like that, maybe 18. I'm not
Should
too
be
sure,
21,
but it's
but
definitely
for
not the. Sorry.
they like for call sheet and things like that, it's 18 because they frame it as buying contracts instead of as actual gambling. It's weird, but
Yeah,
they bypass this stuff.
yeah, having all these loopholes at the end of the day, trying to just profit off of that as well.
Yeah.
And so it's just like it used to be a different era uh, back then, where spending money didn't really mean much, or it didn't give you really an advantage
Yeah.
at the end of the day. But like now it's just like there's so many things pay to win, pay to like extra content type of thing, and so I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Gaming definitely changed um, has changed in the past to now. I remember when what Call of Duty released a game of $70. Like that was
Yeah.
the newest thing that ever happened. Like games used to be at the standard of like $60. Like they keep raising the
I
price
remember,
every
I
so
remember.
often. And so now all games, like every AAA game, has to be at a minimum of like $70. So it's just like it kind of sucks where gaming has been, but I think there's also a better side of gaming as well in terms of having these better technology and these indie companies like
Yeah.
what's that game? Silk. What is that game? Silk. Oh my
What?
gosh, I'm
I don't
actually
know what you're talking about.
you know the game Silk. Wait, Silk. But it's like a pretty. It won Game of the Year. Yeah, Silk Game of the.
On Steam?
Oh, Silk Song. Yeah, Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Oh, I see.
And so
Yeah.
that
Okay.
that won Gaming of the Year, and that was in a AAA company or something like that, like
It's
Call
usually
of
indie
Duty.
games, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just so amazing how like an indie game is able to compete with a AAA game in terms of that as well.
Well, I would say it's because the AAA games are not being creative anymore. They're not taking risks like individual creators. They're just prioritizing like, okay, we need to make sure we hit this budget. We need to make sure we hit this what is it? This like sales target. And instead of actually developing a nice, funny game, they just make the same old thing that they're confident that will it'll kind of sell, but not that much, but at least we'll hit our target. And then everyone's just left feeling bored, which I think sucks. And I think that's why a lot of people don't game nowadays because everything being released is like it's just low effort. It's just not good.
No, I agree with that entirely because I think Call of Duty is a great example of
Yeah,
what it used
perfect
to be.
example.
Like I think Modern Warfare was at that time, Modern Warfare 2019, I believe. That's AAA game, very realistic, very fun to play. Like these new movements and mechanics,
Yeah.
amazing graphics and details and stuff like that, right? And I think that was definitely the revamp of Call of Duty. They're like, "Whoa, Modern Warfare 2019, that's so amazing." But then you get reach to Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, like these they're changing the story entirely based
Yeah.
not off of the like original stories, being a little bit more PC, not having like you said, not being able or not risking not having these risks for these higher rewards type of things. And
Yeah.
so they're I think all games definitely have been playing more on the safe side as well. My favorite thing was like what Halo. I'm an
Yeah.
avid Halo player, playing from Halo C,
Hmm.
watching the Halo Legends anthology. And so I was just an avid Halo fan. And then when Microsoft bought Halo, I'm like, bro, what the heck? And then also on top of that, it's just like all you have nowadays are just revamps, right? Modern Warfare 3 revamp, Halo, like just made a new Halo CE revamp with just modern textures. So you don't have these like companies, like these AAA companies really being creative or inventive of really anything.
Yeah.
They're just reusing these old content and trying to give that idea of nostalgia, having like us as the audience, right? And be like, oh, this game's going to be so fun because it reminds me back then when I was gaming.
That never
When they do
works.
it now,
Never works.
exactly right. And so yeah, I think there's always going to be that empty satisfaction that it's never going to be succeeded. But
Yeah.
unless until GTA 6 releases, but I guess I guess we'll
That's a
never
different
know.
monster. I mean, that thing's been in construction for like 14 years, so, or 10 years.
uh,
So,
maybe
no,
next
I
year. Maybe
agree.
next year.
Like it chasing nostalgia is not only like not going to work. It's not even the point, I feel like, of life in general. I feel like the point is to enjoy new things because you'll find that even in real life, if you try to chase nostalgia, you can never recreate the same experience twice. What you can do though is create new experiences and then remember those. So obviously, that's why I don't try to have like put too much emphasis on nostalgia because I know it's not going to be the same, and that sucks, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, not only does that affect gaming as well, I think it's definitely has affected every industry as well. The
Yeah.
movie industries, like they're going back to these what revamps as well, like Jurassic World. Like I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know how
like
many Jurassic movies there are,
I
and
know.
so it's just like kind of insane having these things. Just like trying, like you said, trying to reach that nostalgia to have that satisfaction. Because at the end of the day, we are the audience since
Yeah.
we watched that in the past, and we're like, yeah, we're trying to recreate or have that memory of what we did in the past because it was so great. But you can only have that memory once to really have
Yep.
that satisfaction.
That's true. And that's why they need to come up with new games to make new memories, but they just don't, especially like 2K. They just do nothing. They don't change anything every year. But another thing I wanted to ask you is since you played a lot of competitive games, you probably had a lot of, trash talk and I have had too, and I'm guilty of it myself, of course, as we all are. But do you think like trash talk in video games is just a natural part of online games and we don't need to do anything about it? Or do you think that like developers ought to protect people by preventing it?
I don't think is any good is had when you're just in a glass box type of thing, right? I remember like talking to all my friends currently. It's just like, oh,
Mm.
if they were ever in a lobby back in like 2005 or 2006, like it's nothing comparable. And now they're having the restrictions of like having these AI trying to censor all these like bad things you say, bad content, and like leading to these false bans and type of things.
Yeah.
And so I like when you get a little bit angry and like in a competitive game. I think some trash talking has been to what
Yeah, of
has to
course.
happen type of thing,
Yeah.
right?
It's
And
not like we're
so
trying
it's
to do
just
it, but sometimes it just happens and you forgive and you hopefully apologize, but sometimes people don't.
yeah, I it's just like we can't really compare to like today's standards back like beforehand type of thing. Like we definitely live in a way different era, 2026 compared to what it was 2005. Like
Yeah.
for example, saying all these blurs was like normalized type of thing, right? But now
Hmm.
we've grown into a society where having these slurs is very looked frowned upon type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, right? I think it's I think it's good that we look upon like we shouldn't like endorse these slurs and type of things. But also on the top of that, like I think we also live in a softer society, not having a strong backbone or anything, and being a little bit more accommodating to like accommodating, even though like sometimes in life you kind of need to build these hard skin, like these, yeah, hard skin and just know that
Yeah.
everything's not going to go your way type of thing. And
Yeah.
so how these gaming do these like a banning of like these voice chat, I don't, it's just a terrible way of doing it. And it's just like leads to many dissatisfaction and just even movement away of playing the game as well.
That's true, actually. I've noticed that games with less free speech tend to be less popular. And I think only the only obligation is in games like Roblox where you know most of the people playing are kids. In that case, I think okay, maybe we ought to prevent
Yeah.
certain people from speaking to kids like so freely on the internet. But in games like CS:GO where your entire player base is like 30-year-olds like men, I don't I don't know if it's like necessary. Which they don't. They don't restrict any chat, but like, I think it depends on who your player base are. But yeah, in general, I don't know. I mean, trash talk, I got used to it, and that actually made me take it less seriously in the future. So for me personally, it was a lesson learned. But I don't know, it's hard to say. I mean, in games where you have a lot of kids, I'd say you ought to protect them, but in games where your fan base is adults, like why not just let people say what they want to say? And if there's like genuine bullying and harassment going on, then you can report it, but like you shouldn't have like a robot trying to tell you what to do all the time.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like I agree entirely with you. Like imagine if Super Mario had like an open chat where you can talk to like like because the audience is really for like little kids, but a like maybe a 5-year-old talking to a 35-year-old. Like there are games where you don't need like these open chat,
Yeah.
especially for the sake of our kids as well. But like for example, CS:GO, I've definitely grown like more resistance to these like harassments or like these like um, what trash talking type of
Yeah.
things, and just taught me to just not take it seriously at all as well, and just
Right,
like
which I think is
the
valuable
game is a
lesson.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It makes you take it less seriously. Like, it's like, okay, these are just people saying things. Like, it doesn't really matter what they say because it has literally no effect on me. Right? I think a lot of people could benefit mentally from, not saying everyone needs to be bullied or something like that, but it is good to not take people's harassment seriously and more only take them seriously if they're actually offering you growth and feedback. But in a CS:GO voice chat, it's not really not happening.
yeah. It's just I think there definitely is a better way to go about this if they were to like try restricting speech, which I'm
Yeah.
not really for in terms of that. But how they're really doing it is just definitely not the way to go, and it just distracts people or deters people from even playing the game. Personally,
Yeah.
I don't know what the solution is. Um, but I think if I had a career in this and like was a CEO and had like a decision making, I'll
Hmm.
probably like find an answer. But like currently, my proposal is probably like keep it what it was like in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Keep it free. Um, okay, let's see. Now transitioning more to about mental health, like this could be about anything, not just gaming. Like, do you think most people, especially our age, like college or like 20, early 20s, I don't know, late teens, do you think most people know how to manage their mental health well? And what is your personal way of managing your mental health?
Ooh, I would say that's a very good question. I definitely do think mental health has been more on the rise, definitely more aware. I think we've
Hmm.
definitely shifted from an age of where it was back then. I remember talking to my dad of like, oh yeah, this kid has ADHD, and my dad would say like, no, he doesn't. Like he's like faking it. Like, but it's like understandable back then, right?
Hmm.
ADHD wasn't like a known or it wasn't as widespread as it was or like as serious
Yeah,
as it
yeah.
was. And so there's definitely a fine line in terms of the mental health between like excessive bullying type of thing to just like, I don't know, just trash talking type of thing. And so because of this, oh boy, I'm losing track. Sorry, what was the question?
Like, do you think people know how to manage their mental health nowadays, or do you think, people kind of don't really
Oh,
think about it properly, or they don't manage it properly, and you think how that's affecting people is in a bad way?
I think. Oh, okay, yeah. So there's definitely been more growth and more resources
Hmm.
of mental health, especially during colleges. Yeah, especially in these colleges and university, you're gonna find a sect of people that definitely have the same struggles as you do, and
Yeah,
also like you're not alone. Like everybody will or probably has faced what you've done, and you just need to find the right people or the right resources, which I think these university does a pretty good job in.
true. Yeah.
However, I think there's also a it's really easy to abuse these mental health as well. I remember like back in high school, people would how easy it was to get these medications to focus for ADHD.
Hmm.
I'm blanking on the medication,
Probably
but
Adderall. Yeah.
yeah, Adderall. Sorry. And I remember watching this Wall Street Journal podcast where instead of having like a doctor give you a prescription or like seeing a doctor to get a prescription for Adderall, you can just go on this website, say like, "Hey, I need Adderall," and they'll just write you a prescription for it. And so I think there's definitely been more of a abuse for the usage of these resources for mental health,
Hmm.
and because of that, I think we sometimes misdiagnose or we'd like to diagnose ourselves thinking of having this disease and having that like self-fulfilling prophecy of I think I have this disease and like my patterns kind of show therefore I'm gonna have this disease therefore I need
Hmm.
to like self-medicate and stuff like that. And so it's I think mental health it's definitely been a touchy subject.
Yeah.
There's definitely great resources, but however it's how do you really know if somebody does or really doesn't, for example, have like ADHD,
True.
right?
Yeah, which is why I think we need psychiatrists and actual doctors. But obviously we're not doctors, but what do you think people should do to manage their mental health better if they're not going to use, rely on a doctor's like medication, right? I mean, there's obviously many things that are very personal to people that they can fix in their lives, but in general, like what is your kind of sense of what people are missing? And I have an answer for this, but I'm just curious what yours is.
Hmm. For me, I remember you asking one of this question for like, what do I do for my mental health?
Hmm.
One thing I like to do in my that helps with my mental health is having these many hobbies, having a stable family foundation, being religious, and not being overly hard on myself when things don't go my way, type of thing. I think as a what EMS provider, you're gonna see, and being in the military, you're gonna see like so many things, so many people having these challenges, and you have to be responsible how to deal with these people with mental health. And I think the best option is if it's really, truly, um, truly hindering your life or having a negative impact on your life. I think there has to be some sort of medicine. I don't think medication in and of itself is a permanent solution. There has to be some sort of over reliance. I think medication is the idea of treating the symptoms, but
Hmm.
medicine has to be there has to be a way to treat the actual root of that cause
Yeah,
or
yeah.
that mental health. And so also on top of that, like nowadays we have these short form content, having these reels, having these Instagram things.
Yeah.
And so it's really easy to have this short attention span, right? It's just really easy to have that and it's just hard to focus for long times. And maybe some people think like, oh yeah, I have ADHD, therefore I need Adderall to focus for this exam or something like that, right?
Hmm.
Even though there's definitely is a big difference between having ADHD or just growing up with these short term like content. And
Yeah, yeah.
so medication like using Adderall is just a very like what it helps you in the short term, right? It's
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
permanent fix. However, am I saying like should we not give ADHD to people who suffer ADHD? No, I think Adderall has its benefits,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's definitely people who really do need these medication. But there has to be some sort of way where this medication should just only help. Medication helps with the short term, but there has to be a better fix for this long term of thinking that this my short attention span is me having ADHD.
Right. And I can tell because I've now worked with kids with, severe ADHD, and it's like very clear to me that it's really not the same as us just not being able to focus when you're doing work because you're on reels or something. It's not the same. And I actually that connects to what I wanted to say. So you say that it's a lot about people should, rely on not rely, but have hobbies to preserve mental health and whatnot. But I think those also connect to a greater purpose and direction in life. I think what I've seen recently, especially with people who I can tell are, struggling mentally, is that they don't have a direction or purpose in life. And that oftentimes stems from the problem because people are constantly distracting themselves with things, whether that be short form entertainment or substances or just something that's really not going to help you fix your problem, or because
Nope.
they just don't they don't take the time to think about it. And you need to have some silence in your day to think about your direction, right? Like when you go to bed at night, don't just play music or reels until you fall asleep, right? Now you should think, why am I here on this earth? Who put me here? Why am I here? And what do I want to do before I leave this earth? What I want to accomplish. And that's missing in a lot of people. You ask them like, "Oh, what's kind of your purpose, your mission, or your drive in life?" And some people say, "Oh, I want to spend my life helping other people make their lives better." I'm like, "Okay, that's a clear, concrete goal." But others are just like, "I don't know, I guess just get a job and make money and have hobbies." And obviously that's a goal, but it sounds like they haven't really thought about it, and it sounds like they haven't really made a clear purpose that will always exist no matter what. And I think a lot of people lack that. And then if you have no direction in life, you can appear happy, but then at the end of the day, you're like, you know what? Everything I'm doing doesn't really matter because there's no greater purpose. I don't know. Have you seen the same thing? People kind of lack a purpose and direction in life.
Oh yeah, I think what you touched on, I've never really thought about it myself, but I guess I've have done a little bit what you've been talking about. I would say definitely in my beginning years of college, I would just nonstop sucked into the short form
Yeah.
content, sucked into using AI on every like homework assignment, right? But during later in my college career, it kind of took me. I had a talk with a chaplain, and I just
Yeah.
never really had this talk with him, and never had the realization of this introspection and like what have I been doing this like entire time? Like I'm doing all I like I've been doing these activities and stuff like that, but like what was the greater purpose? And
Yeah.
so I think I grew a little bit closer to my faith, questioning it, journaling a little. And I definitely do agree that people who definitely indulge in the short form content don't really have a direction in life. Because if you're just indulging this short form content, right, there's not really a need to think in the long term and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so I think there's definitely it's easier to just not really think about the future at all. And also on top of that, I remember watching this video, I think it was in the UK or something like that, saying that having these kids uh, watch the short form content has been shown that their IQ has decreased over time, right?
That's a little
Which
sad.
is very scary. Which is
Yeah.
very scary, right? And like the implementation of AI into schooling, and most likely, and having that like replace like writing and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
it has shown in that UK study that the intelligence of the next generation is decreasing, which is very, very scary, right? And
Yeah.
so, like me personally, when I think about like, oh my gosh, every time I'm eating dinner or eating dinner outside and I see a little kid like watching a YouTube video or something like that, it's completely scary because most of like they're in a very critical period of development, talking, learning how to think, learning how to move, learning how
Yeah.
to do these new activities. But now you replace those meaningful experience with just watching these short form content. And then furthermore, on top of that, like if you ask them like, hey, what have you been like doing? Like you don't know like this short form content. Like you think you've been doing it for like 10 minutes, but next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's been an hour or 2 hours type of thing as
Yeah.
well.
No,
Because they're
really.
very just it's very scary of just uh, how it's like the future is in terms of this, and like because of this short form content, right? Uh, YouTube's like I remember YouTube added this new implementation because of how popular it is, right? YouTube just their main goal is just making money, right? And so
Yeah.
they, I think either YouTube or Instagram, they implemented this auto scrolling feature, right? To a
No
point where you
way.
don't
Oh
even need
my
to like
God.
use your finger to scroll. You can just like hold your phone, and you're like, oh, like that's not really scary, right? They're just that's like a very cool function to have like some you don't need to use your finger, but like
Yeah.
if you take a step back and see what this short form content has, like inadvertently, if YouTube did it like or not, like it's very scary of what they're doing as well. And just like I think during my engineering ethics class, right, it's just
Hmm.
we had this talk about all this thing, and it really questions like what is going to happen in the future. Because what's interesting about you and I is that we live in the era before AI and the implementation of AI, right? And
Yeah.
so we're lucky to see like what our lives have transitioned before it using AI and after using AI. And I'm just saying like you can go down a rabbit hole of just what the future is going to be, but for me, certainly, I'm very scared of what's going to happen in a matter of just 10 years. Like, I remember when AI was like back, was released during my senior year of high
I
school. It's
remember,
like, oh,
yeah.
this is so cool and stuff like that, right? Like, oh my gosh, like ChatGPT can do all these things. It's just like a very eye opening experience now. Like, fast forward to today, everybody's using AI to like do your homework, using AI to like read for you, using AI. Like, implementing AI in your everyday life type of thing, even though like it's not needed. So it's very scary of where we're like where this future is going to.
I
And
agree,
then
yeah.
uh, I'm gonna this is gonna be my last point. But the scariest thing in my engineering ethics class was just AI and the implementation of the military. Like
Oh, yeah,
like
true, true.
what do you mean by that? They're like we were having a talk, it was saying like, oh yeah, like you don't need a human person to fly a drone or something like that. You can just have an AI have this drone and just fly to this person and just like eliminate it, right? And so
Yeah.
it's very scary of what this short form content, what AI has done, and what the next generation is going to be. Because like if you see any kids, it's just like it's very scary. Scary
Yeah.
of just what's happening.
I mean, they literally watch like AI, nonsense on YouTube. And I think that actually does connect to people's lack of purpose in life because, as I was saying, like AI is now replacing our thinking itself. It's not just, people like to say AI is making us more efficient, but it can only make you more efficient if it removes mundane, repetitive tasks. Like we only said calculators were good because it replaced, mundane calculations. Instead of having to look up in a textbook what your sine and cosine values are, now you can just put it in a calculator, right? That's efficiency. But that's not replacing thinking. You will already just looking through tables. But when AI replaces your thinking, like you have to think about like why are we even having it replace our thinking? Like to what end, to what benefit? I'm sure AI can be beneficial in medicine and whatnot, and helping efficiency and accuracy. But at the end of the day, you need a human to think through it, right? And these trains of thoughts that you have are not harmful. Like some people say they can't sit with their own thoughts, but you need to have those trains of thoughts to even find your purpose in life, right? Because how can you find your purpose in life if you think, why am I getting this job? Or why am I using AI, for example? Oh, to do better on my assignment. Why? So I can get a good grade. Why? So I can go to grad school, so I can get a job, so I can make money, so I can do the things you like. And then that's when you land on something that's a purpose. It's like, oh, okay. So now we've actually found your real purpose, not getting a job, right? And people lack that because they don't, I feel like there's a lack of actual deep thought anymore. And I think it's kind of scary. AI is not just replacing mundane tasks, it's replacing thinking. Like even the best programmers say, you can use AI to do all the syntax for you, fine, that's replacing efficiency, but you can't replace the mathematical logic and thinking that goes behind it. And so, but a lot of people are doing that in college now, and it's obvious. Like even myself last year, I struggled with that. I was like, I really wasn't thinking anymore. Everything was going into GPT and then coming out, and it's like, what was the point anymore? I wasn't learning anything. Like it's not to learn specific things, but I wasn't learning anything about myself or growing, right? And so I agree with you. It's pretty scary what it's doing. And then especially when it's unpredictable too, the ethics of it, right? Like how is it going to know who to shoot in a military strike? Who put the ethics in there? Like who are we trusting with these ethics? Because do we trust
Yeah.
most people in our government and military to do that? I don't mean who even knows who's in charge, right? Like we don't know that as people. So these are all I totally agree. AI is very scary and I'm not sure we fully trust the people who are in charge of it at this moment. And that's just because like I don't know them as people, and yet they're in charge of something so powerful it could eventually take over society like somehow. So, that this is a big problem, and I agree to be scared about it.
Yeah, like I think there's definitely needs to be a restriction on AI of itself. Like we're still at a very early age of AI, right? AI is in the process of being implemented everywhere. However, I think the fix to all these things is just we need to have these regulations and really understand like, hey, despite AI being like good and all these stuff like that, like you said, replacing these mundane tasks, right? They're also replacing human connections and thinking. And I also agree
True.
with Pope Leo the 14th, right? He was saying like, hey, now's the time to restrict AI of all the dangers that it can do. Yeah,
Hmm.
I remember my one ethics class, right? They're like these chat box and something like that. And so when you're at these like senior homes or these senior residents, right? There's not really many people visiting them, right? They're just like living
Yeah.
there to just to die practically, right? Just like a
Hmm.
retirement, right? And so the scariest thing I watched was there was this company who had this chat box, like there's a voice chat box that you can call and interact with these old patients, right? And
Wow,
so
really?
these
Oh
old
my God.
people don't know, like they don't know the difference if they're talking to a actual person or if they're talking to an AI. And so
Right.
that's very scary. But like the CEO of that's like, oh, it's gonna help them like cognitively, it's gonna not like help them like be depressed or something like that. Like these are all great things and stuff like that, right? I wouldn't want my grandpa to be depressed. I wouldn't want my grandpa to have like these mental issues. However, like they're not making true human interactions
Yep.
at all. You're just cutting, like you're skipping the human experience, trying to make these meaningful experiences into something like some currency wise type of thing. So it's just very scary. Like that one example of itself, replacing human connection, replacing human connection with AI. I think that's the scariest thing to ever happen. And I think the like going down, the worst future is going to be not being able to differentiate between human and AI. And so that goes a little bit down to my like the Toy Story game that I was playing. Detroit Becomes Human, right?
Hmm.
They don't know if like this like being is a human or an AI. I think her name was Alice or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
we thought this person was a like this little kid, this little girl was a human this entire time. But once we reached to the very end of the game, she was an AI the entire time. We're like, whoa, that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
And so it's just like I don't even know where we're gonna go, but I think there's definitely need to be a rise in just calling these restriction of this a of like AI and this short form content and stop trying to profit off of uh, like kids or these people with like these mental health and replacing of thinking and like actually realize there's a problem
Hmm.
happening right now and something that's going to happen to our generation.
Yeah, and I agree that it's scary for like the people who don't know any better. Like for old people, for example, like I go to hospice care and I see people who are d demented and like struggle mentally. Like sometimes they don't even know where they are. And what they would need is not a robot to talk to or like some fake thing that they can pretend is human. What they need is because that would actually probably confirm their delusions, because I've seen this now that ChatGPT can actually confirm people's delusions. But what's
Yeah,
scary, what's they need is like a hand to hold or like a physical presence of a person to be there, and you literally cannot replace that with AI. And then that Detroit becomes human thing. I've seen a lot of movies about this too. It's pretty scary when you kind of like get almost like you catch feelings for this, not maybe not necessarily in a romantic way, but you have actual feelings for this robot, and you find out it's just an AI, and it's like, well, is it just an AI? Is it like what even is it at that point, right? It kind of reminds me of Blade Runner, that movie, right? It's a similar concept.
Yes,
Like
yes,
that's
yeah.
that's kind of scary, you know. I just can't imagine that happening, but I think it's in the future, in our future, unfortunately.
And like, nobody would have predicted this at all, right?
Yeah, I
Like,
wouldn't.
I think the inventors of I think their very sole purpose was just like, yeah, replacing mundane tasks. But I don't think I don't know what Sam Altman was like. Maybe his objective was to replace people from thinking and
Yeah,
losing like the IQ of the next generation. But I don't personally, I don't think that was his purpose at all, type of thing, right? I think there's many great things happening with AI, but I think AI is causing so much more harm rather than good in terms of it,
yeah.
and is just unfortunately affecting the next generation. I remember like watching my watching Instagram reels, and back then it used to be like these like people would actually edit, people would actually put in the effort to do all these things. Now it's just replaced with this AI like a brain rot type of content,
Yeah,
and
even
I'm
brain
just
rot's
like,
been
wow,
replaced.
yeah, and it's just like AI truly is replacing everything, and it's
Hmm.
just like I don't like. It's scary. I thinking about it right now. It's just like uh, you can go down this hole and talking about like, oh, what is AI going to do? What can AI be implemented? But I think there's definitely a bunch of great people trying to combat the very adversity of AI in our
Nice.
generation.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think a good example was just like the implementation of AI in medicine. But
Hmm.
what's interesting, I remember reading this paper. Uh, AI would never truly replace a physician, for example, right? Because
Yeah.
let's say you had a patient who had like cancer, but the AI said like, "Oh, this person doesn't have cancer" or something like that. But the patient dies of that cancer, and so the
Hmm.
question is, who do you blame,
Right.
right? And so AI can never be fully implemented in AI, even though there's definitely been physicians using AI and it has been implemented, but there's always going to be a human interaction or a human decision at the very end of the day saying, okay, this person does or doesn't have cancer. And uh, and that liability falls on that like solely provider or that solely physician. And so I think that's kind of very interesting in implementation of AI in medicine. And so I kind of want to see how that kind of spins out as well. But you can't replace, there should never be a replacement of human interaction
I
with
agree, yeah.
AI.
And that's pretty much where all those problems stem from, when you start actually replacing human thought and interaction. But yeah, so I agree. Um, I don't really know what to do about it personally, but I'd say we should transition to something not AI, because we definitely covered like the most important things about it, and I fully agree
Yeah.
with you. But now this last one is like back to gaming a little bit, but it's a little more philosophical about your life, to get you thinking in ways that AI can't do for you. So when I say it personally, things like, oh, I gaming is good for me, that means something different for everyone, right? Like what is good? How do you define if something is good for you? And what makes you think something is good for me and something's bad for me? Like what's your ultimate guide for that?
That's a good one. I think something that can involve critical thinking, something that can achieve similar to what a book can. When it comes to Choice Story Gamings, right? It comes to being able to sympathize, trying to empathize with these people, and trying to imagine what a future of that could be, right? Like, for example, for me, I was able to reference Detroit Becomes Human in this conversation because I was
Hmm.
able to critically think. And it kind of does encourage you to critically think after each decision, you deliberately pressing the button. when it comes to competitive gaming as well. I think there is a difference from just point and clicking to actually planning out strategies, understanding like the enemy, understanding like how they play and stuff like that. Like there's definitely a something that's good for you in terms of gaming. I would say like I was able to get so good at in Army ROTC military tactics just because of CS:GO, because I was able to critically think, and I was like, no way was I ever able to like apply the gaming of what I've learned into real life. But
That's
if you're
funny.
able to, I guess the biggest takeaway for me is that if you're able to either apply it in your life somehow,
Hmm.
whether that be military RTC for me, or being able to like be a better person in terms of that. But yeah, like if you can just apply it into your life, or it has the ability to do something similar to a book, I think I would have to do a little bit more thinking of that overarching question of what does good gaming mean, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's also being able to make meaningful experience, right? I
Yeah.
think growing up, I was able to make many meaningful experiences gaming with my brothers. And just because of it, like we're able to bond more and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And sure, we could go golfing, we could go like traveling or stuff like that. But I think gaming has its own unique advantages
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to those other examples.
Yeah, I agree, and I actually haven't thought about that, how story games can kind of be compared to reading in that it introduces you to morals and stories. And it's almost like a movie because I think movies are valuable in that they can teach you important lessons. At least maybe not a lot of modern movies, but a lot of ones back then definitely could. So maybe I mean maybe I have to try more story games because from competitive games, what I've learned is more about like discipline and self-control more than anything else, the discipline to not play all the time and self-control to not play all the time and then self-control to not only care about your rank in the game and to not be so competitive with your friends when the whole point is to enjoy the game. So for me, gaming is kind of like an enjoying thing. I kind of read and watch movies to more learn and progress myself as a person and then talk to people like this, for example. But I actually have never thought about the story game thing. So maybe I ought to play more story games. I don't know. All the ones I have right now is like Baldur's Gate and the Metro games. That's about it. I don't know. Have you tried
Yeah.
either of those?
I tried a little bit of Metro Exodus you're talking about,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I mean that
And
was a
so
game where
that's
like there was a beautiful story and I almost cried at that. I didn't actually cry, but like it was a pretty nice
yeah,
story and I felt like I actually gained something of value from that.
yeah. And I think for me personally, I think story games has been my Toy Story games, or like these single player games, have definitely been my go-to. And I kind of moved away a little bit away from the competitive scene.
Hmm.
If I had more time or like more commitment to improve my skills, yeah, I'll definitely go back into the competitive scene. But what's so easy about these single player games and Toy Story games is just that I can just quit and come back whenever that I can, whenever I have the free time,
Yeah.
and act like nothing changed at all, right?
Hmm.
But when you come to like competitive gaming, like I remember I tried playing Rainbow Six Siege with this like new Snake Eater update, right? And like it's been a while since I played, and like there's all these like new maps, these new techniques, this new strategy, and I'm like all the skills that I've learned like maybe a couple like 2 years ago, right, down the drain because I'm not like updated or keeping in like contact with like or keeping in context with the like new gaming stuff like that. But like when it comes to like CS:GO, right? There hasn't been like a central replacement in gaming of itself. I would say CS:GO has stayed roughly the same with these like new mechanics and stuff like that from like the original CS:GO, keeping it to its true core and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But for me, competitive gaming is a great way to hang out with friends and stuff like that. I think also Toy Story games, if they allow it, to have being able to hang out with friends as well. Because I've been meaning to play. Uh, Personally, I hate scary games. Right? I dislike scary
I
games so
love horror
much, and it
games.
comes to scary movies as well, right? But I think I would never play it alone by myself. If I have friends, I remember playing like that shopping game or something like that. Like,
Repo?
yeah, not Repo, but Repo is fun as well.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot this game, but this is another indie game as well, where you can
Okay.
play like multiplayer, and you're trying to find like, oh, you're in charge of like it's a really dumb game, but it's really fun. You're in
Uh-huh.
charge of like a grocery store, and you're trying to find like, oh, these if this is like a
Oh yeah, yeah,
doppelganger that
yeah. I know, yeah. There's
you know what
also
I'm
like a
talking about.
shawarma game that's similar to that on Roblox.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just like you. It's so funny because you actually have to critically think
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, oh, is this person like okay, date of birth? What's your like? They said their brother died. Do they die at this year? And so like having like scary games, as scary as it is,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the best when you have it playing with friends.
That's
I
true,
think
yeah.
one one score scary game that we play is what is that game? It's similar to it's the same company that made Until Dawn. Well, I guess Until Dawn's a pretty good scary game as
I've
well.
never played it.
But
I've
it's
never played it.
just oh really? I think original Until Dawn is a very fun game where you
Mm-hmm.
can actually switch off of like your characters. For example, I was this one character, and then when it switched to this other character, my brother would be playing the game. And so it's
Oh,
really fun
okay.
because like you got to choose your individual characters, and you kind of decide the fate of what's happening with that as well. And
Yeah.
so it's just like I think story-based games is, in my opinion, the best form of that, or in terms of gaming.
That's a good point. I think I should try them then. Because I always liked watching Dashie play Life is Strange as a kid. Like those were just so interesting to me. I agree that like sometimes, it's more about finding a meaningful experience in games too. Um,
Yeah,
and in terms of like playing with friends, yeah, horror games are more fun with friends. Also, competitive games are more fun with friends. I think games in general are just more fun with friends. But, it is sad that a lot of people nowadays just they just don't have time to get on, and so people our age, like it's hard to find friends that are, hey, you want to hop on the game? It's like, yeah, I mean it's not so
yeah.
simple anymore, which is this is only my only current, dilemma with gaming. But other than that, I still think it's a phenomenal use of time sometimes.
No,
I
I
don't know.
agree.
If you have any last takes
Gaming,
on gaming.
I think gaming can be definitely be a hobby and should be an enjoyable hobby.
Hmm.
However, there's a fine line where gaming can affect your normal day lives, right? If it comes to a point where you're gaming 3 a.m. and you're at school the next day,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't call that like a I wouldn't call that a good idea to do. But there's
Yeah.
definitely like playing at 12 a.m. on like a Saturday night on a scary game to like with that to help with the atmosphere and like
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example, Five Nights at Freddy and you get a jump scare of Bonnie and you're playing with friends and it's just like that's really fun.
Yeah,
And
these
so
are
I
just
guess my
vibes.
takeaway, yeah, I guess my takeaway when it comes to gaming is that you can definitely enjoy whatever game you play, but don't have it like replace your life. Don't let it stunt you from having like these other opportunities and other things. Because I guess an example for me, like I started like learning how to play more of the electric guitar, trying to learn more of these
Nice.
skills, and I kind of just stepped away a little bit from like the gaming action and stuff like that. Not and so yeah, it's just like do whatever you want to do whatever hobbies you want to do. If it's a good impact in your life, I think you should do it.
Yeah. And to add on to that about just not replacing things, don't let anything replace your individual thinking. Everyone has their own person, and everyone ought to have their own opinions, have their own thoughts, their own feelings, and it's meant to be shared, share these things. If you have struggles, talk to other people. Like, trust me, I mean, even though I make this podcast, I do not have everything figured out by any means at all. And sometimes I have to talk to people and admit, like, hey, you know what? Like, I feel kind of stupid right now. I don't really know what to do. And that's totally okay. That's my take-home
Yeah.
message. I think this is a good message we're sending here today.
I think I want to end it with I was a big avid watcher of Doctor Who, and this one quote that sticks to me to this very day is, "We're all stories at the end of the day, right? Just make it a good one. Just
Yeah.
make it a good story."
Yeah, I totally agree. Life is strange indeed. No, no pun intended.
Life is strange.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank
But
you so much for having me on
of
this.
course,
Like,
thank you.
this
This
is
was
pretty
like
cool.
probably the best interview episode, you know? All right. So everyone, thank you for watching and thank you, Nick, for coming on. Yeah, hope you all enjoyed. Take care. See you all next time.